Welcome to Smart Branding, a podcast dedicated to branding, naming, and domain names. I'm Tatiana Bonneau, and with my guests, we try to help you create and grow strong, memorable, and meaningful brands online. I believe time is one of our most precious assets, and so I want to thank you in advance if you decide to spend the next 30 minutes with us. I promise to do my best to make those worth it. Let's go. So hello and welcome to our podcast, the first one for 2023. And our guest today is Tracy Lamourie. She's the founder and managing director of Lamourie Media, and an international award-winning publicist. She has a wealth of experience with the entertainment industry, small businesses across borders and industries. I'm very excited to have you, Tracy. You have the honor of being the first guest for the year. Thank you for making the time.
Oh, first of the year, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be on. I know we've been talking about it for a while, so I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, let's start with a bit of a background. Tell me, what's your story and how did you end up working in PR?
So it's a funny story. I'll try to tell it as quick, kind of condensed version. But so I was in, my husband and I both worked in just, entry level sales when we were in our 20s. We were also young activists, and it was the early days of the internet because I'm 53 now. So, so in the mid 90s, when we first got our internet, we'd had a radio show a few years before that, and we didn't have the radio show anymore. It was at a college radio, so we weren't in there anymore. We were used to being reporters, though. We were used to sort of gathering information. So the early days of the internet came on, and oddly enough, and this is strange for a business podcast, but this is literally how my journey to where I am, international award-winning publicist, kind of started, even though it was a bit unrelated, is I learned to write my first press release in 1998, for a cause. Basically, we found out, and this is nothing to do with any issue we'd ever been involved with. It's nothing personal. We didn't know anybody, we'd never been involved with anything before, but we heard about a man on Pennsylvania death row who was claiming to be innocent, and his name was Jimmy Dennis, and nobody was doing anything about it. And we thought, how innocent can this guy be? But because we'd been sort of still in that reporter frame of mind, it was interesting, and I don't know what made us do it, but my husband and I wrote a letter. We're like, okay, how innocent can this guy be? Let's see. And he ended up sending back documentation, enough stuff that was really disturbing. And then we thought, oh, geez, well, he spent, he wrote 20-page letters, sent us all this information. Here we are, two 28-year-olds, what do we do with that now? We don't even have a radio show anymore. So now we're like, well, we have a responsibility, because what do we do? Just say, oh, well, thanks. That was a great story to read. Thanks. So we thought, what can we do? We can't really do anything. We didn't have money in those days. I certainly wasn't a publicist. So my husband learned to make a website, because it was the early days of the internet, and I learned to write a press release. So I learned to reach out to media. Long story short, we had several years. It ended up being an 18-year campaign. He was finally released. He was actually released on evidence of factual innocence, thankfully, in 2017, when the world understood that he was innocent, finally, and how that affected my trajectory. So by that time, I was, 47 or something. But a few years before that, and meanwhile, we'd still been working in sales. That was just, nothing to do with money. It was all not-for-profit. And it hit me when I was 42, which is a decade ago. I'm 53, a decade and a year ago now, that I could use some of the skills that I had used and had learned over that time to deal with media. We'd gotten ourselves, for that story, on all kinds of major national news outlets in the States, at a time when it was difficult to do that. Nobody was talking about wrongful convictions in those days. Anyway, I learned how to write a press release, and I learned how to do it effectively. So when I was 42, and I was sitting there thinking, I don't know what struck me one day that never struck me before, but it just hit me. And this is where the lesson could be for any listener. It doesn't have to be something like that, but you may have something in your life that you're good at, that you've developed a skill at, or you're passionate about. You've never turned it into, you never thought about being able to make a career out of it. So not the death penalty stuff. I never would have wanted to make any career out of advocacy or get paid for that advocacy work. But that skill that I had learned to put together a press release, to know how to reach out to media, to know who to reach out to know how to, I realized that's something that most businesses don't have. And every large company in the world has a communications and PR department, but entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, we're thinking about marketing. We don't think about this. So what 10 years in now, I've been hugely effective in getting messaging for clients across industries, from creatives to entertainment, to small businesses, to local businesses, to major startups, to household name companies, all kinds of stuff. And, more and more lately, I've been speaking to small businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs about how to build your brand. I call my talk "How to Build Your Brand Without ever, your global brand without ever spending a penny in advertising." I've never spent any money on advertising, right? So you can do that, but also you should be looking at this, which is building your brand by thought. You've heard thought leadership, by taking those opportunities to speak about what you know, to get out there, to get on stages, to make sure you're nominated for awards, to make sure that you're seen. So there's one thing to do everything, but then you need to be seen doing it, especially now when there's all these different platforms and it's beyond social media. People understand social media now, but media, old school media, television, radio, newspapers, and then blogs and podcasts, which are also part of media, is that third party credibility that you can't, you can have all the social, you can have a beautiful deck, you can have whatever, but when you're looking for investment or when you're trying to impress your customers or when you're trying to differentiate yourself from the other person who does the same as what you do, being quoted in national, local, and global media is 100%, it's golden. It builds everything.
Absolutely.
It elevates, it builds everything. Opens up everything.
I love that. And I'm going to backtrack on something you said at the beginning. And then when you mentioned how you actually figured, I'm actually good at that, even though it's not what you didn't do it for that. And it's very funny. It reminded me. I had some creative photography course, and we had a funny experiment where we had invited a psychologist, and we were doing some exercise where effectively she was inspiring us, to take pictures. But she had one question that was not related to that, and kind of stuck with me. It was more because you have people oftentimes wondering, but what can I do? What am I good at? And a lot of people are stuck in careers or in jobs that they don't actually like. And it was very
everybody is exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't wait to get to work. Geez, I wish we would get. Are you crazy? No, I actually.
I know. And her answer was, well, think about what do people reach out for you for? What do people ask you to do often? Not work, family, people. And it's very funny how that immediately kind of everybody have asked that question. They immediately have that, they come to me for, and somebody might be working, I don't know, in a whatever, some technical whatever job, and they're my whole family, all of my friends come to me when they want to write a thank you letter or when they want to whatever, and something that's not at all related to what they do, but that's what they're good at and that's what they love doing. And it's a very, very cool way to kind of, because you don't realize.
Great. I never thought about that. It's true.
Yeah, I know.
My whole life have asked me to help with writing since I'm a little kid. Literally, from 10 years old. Can you help me? My Alice would ask me to help me. I never thought that would be, but there you go.
No, exactly. And when she said that, I was like, I literally have friends from high school still reaching out to me saying, I'm doing this, whatever presentation. Can you have a look? Can you help me write it? And it's been 10 years we haven't seen each other or more. It's crazy. So I do some writing now, but I can definitely do more. So that was on that. And I thought I drew on my face, but no. Good stuff. And I like the other stuff you just said about building a brand and getting publicity and getting your name out there and without spending a penny. And now the reason I like that is because actually spending cash, people think, that's expensive, that's whatever. That's the easy way of doing things. And the problem is, as soon as you stop paying, it's gone. It's not sustainable. It's not expandable. It's not, unless you, I don't know, you're born a gazillionaire. And even then, it doesn't tell you how do people really react to it. You can just keep buying traffic. You can keep buying adverts, throw enough shit against the wall and some will stick.
But really, but how much, at what cost, right? Whereas at this, you're getting stuff that just what because when you see, people are excited when they're featured in these big publications. And it's funny, one of my clients told me literally, and I always quote this in podcasts because it's such a good story. I repeat it, but it's really important people get this, right? Is that after 6 weeks of work, and I'm not saying this to brag, it's to indicate what PR can do. After 6 weeks of working together, she said, "You changed my business and my life." And when I was like, well, that's quite the accolade. What? Give me more. What do you mean, right? She said she was looking for seed funding in her business, right? And she said, "You've made investors take me more seriously." period. Because 6 weeks of working together, she had 3 interviews, 2 podcasts. And we put her up for several awards, and she won one award for innovation in her industry in the UK, even though her industry is only working in Canada so far. But that kind of international recognition, then all of a sudden you put that in the bio, you put that to whatever. So again, it's going to, if I'm going to, like me, myself, if I'm going to go do business with a company, I usually Google them. Right? Imagine. So, okay. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. If you have another question. Sorry.
You were talking about your clients and that investors started taking it seriously after.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So like investors, that makes all the difference. Investors, I go to if I'm going to do business with somebody, I go and Google them and see what they have. So for sure, if I was going to be giving them $1 million or $10 million or whatever, I'm going to be Googling the potential companies that I might be giving money to, right? Even just on and if one of these companies has a beautiful deck and they have great social media that all looks fantastic, but the other one has beautiful deck, great social medias, and 3 interviews and an award, and I haven't even given them my money yet. They're obviously, so human nature is going to be, so not only for investment, but it also differentiates you from your competitor. It excites your existing customers, and then they'll share the media. Oh, look, this is my hairstylist. This is my real estate agent. Look, they were just interviewing me, whatever. And it sort of, excites your career. And it's funny, everyone, it just really signifies success in a way that you can't buy. You have your great aunt Edna. Oh, I didn't know you were doing so well, honey. Everything, it literally from your family to the potential investor, to the client, to the customer. So it elevates you in a way nothing else can. Getting quoted on that, and you can't buy that. We're not talking about things like you cannot buy being quoted in Reader's Digest. You can't buy being the one quoted on TV. You can buy an ad beside the article, but you can't buy that, in legitimate.
But it's a different, absolutely. And I think, but you used a very good term for it, third-party credibility. That's really something that makes a difference. And there are, I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to, be backstabbing certain publications, but there are some very known global publications that everybody knows you have to pay to be featured there. Exactly. And so the credibility of that is you just pay for it. So what? You're not telling me you're good at something. You're telling me you can pay.
Yeah, because that actually hurts your credibility. I never ever do that or pitch my clients to them, because then it makes it look like you're buying media with all your other stuff. And then when you get legitimate media, which people don't realize, some people don't know the difference, but absolutely. Anyone asking you to get featured, and that's a PR tool, is a different thing than media. If you need something tomorrow, you need an article about yourself, it's not on your webpage, and you need it, whatever, so you can show or to get other media, whatever, fine. There's tools for that, but that's different. And like you said, and everybody knows, anybody in the industry knows. If you buy 5 articles like that, and then I try to use that as a basis to get you more media, make media know you can spot those. They're not going to respond to that. It might be the only time when it might be worthwhile is if you want to put your story somewhere. You want to have a long form of your story, but even then, be very careful. Yeah, generally, I say no paid media. And when if I accidentally pitch something that I didn't realize was like that, a podcast or something, and they come back and they say, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, we'd love to have your client on," even if it's a $10 charge, I say no. We don't pay. My clients are there because they're experts giving incredible information of value to the listener. If you want them, you have them on. They're not charging you for it, but they're not paying for the stage. So.
Yeah. No, I can see the sense in that. So you've been then in that space for quite some time. How have you seen PR change and being affected by technology in general, and now most recently with artificial intelligence? And how do you see all that changing and shaping up?
We'll see how our artificial intelligence goes. And I've seen some great writing, but still, I think it's not going to really affect the publicist too much, because you need the strategy. The writing is only a component of it. First, you need to figure out who wants this message, where should this message go, what me. So there's a whole bunch of things beyond just the writing. Well, I'm sure there will, well, we will see an impact. And I've already seen some clients say, "Oh, you can do the writing. We also have this tool if you want." I'm like, no, it's okay. I'll just do the writing. That's cool. But what I've seen change in the last year is SEO people are starting to hire publicists, like SEO professional agencies and stuff are starting to hire publicists, because they're starting to learn that what they've been doing, which is a lot of them, they'll get paid articles. That they recognize, Google recognizes those. Google knows which ones are the articles. Google is not highlighting you. You're not getting your Instagram verification. You're not getting all these things with those articles that they sell, that all those companies that they pay. It's not a thing. So now agencies, and funnily enough, some of them are calling PR, and they're not like twice this year, a PR agency, quote, has tried to hire me. They're basically an SEO agency trying to get into PR, right? But what they're doing is they're trying to hire me to get the publicist. And I did it. I got the clients of media. This is what you do, but please don't call yourself a PR company, because you're not doing that. You're doing SEO. There's a lot of confusion about what PR is. People get it confused with promotions, and they get it confused. It's all related with marketing. But a great example of the difference between PR and marketing and advertising is in I can't remember who originally said this. It wasn't me. I wish I had, but it was a senior publicist, a gentleman, F.C. Simmons. I can't remember his name, but there's a great quote explaining the difference. One is says, if a young man takes a woman out on a date and he tells her how successful, how, amazing he is and all that, that's advertising. If he tells her how brilliant she is and what a great conversation she is and how pretty she is, that's marketing, because he's telling the right thing to the right person. If somebody else tells her how great that guy is, that's PR.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's nice. That's very simple to explain. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, there's that saying, like, if you can't explain your job, like what you do to a 3-year-old, you're not that much of an expert. It has to be really, like, you have to be able to simplify it. So that's a very good one in that respect. If you had like magical powers and you could stop entrepreneurs, brand owners, personal brand owners from doing like one thing that you see as a mistake, what would it be?
I think spending a whole bunch of money on advertising, like you said, just throwing things in the wall, thinking, but I get it, because they don't have it. They think, okay, they get the right idea. I got to get my message out there. How can people know what I'm doing? But that's the only tool they know. And I've seen people spend a whole lot, like, look at real estate agents, for example. Everybody knows 5 real estate agents. You can't leave your house without seeing an ad for real estate. They spend a lot of money on the bus ads, on the everything. Well, 99% of them don't know that if they hired a publicist instead for one bit of that money, that we'd be sending them 10 different, because every single day I see media asks for real estate. Looking for an expert in real estate to talk about what color you should paint your kitchen to sell it quicker. Looking for an expert in real estate to talk about predictions for the market in 2023. Looking for literally every single day. They don't, and the media doesn't go to the advertiser. They don't, go to the yellow pages and just pick up a guy from the ad. Why not when there's so many? Because they're looking for somebody who can give a good quote, who's media friendly, who they know is not going to be advertorial, but they're going to give the answer, editorial, so you've got to get yourself in the mix. And if you don't have a publicist, you can do some of it on your own. You can start thinking editorial as opposed to advertorial. Start thinking of, what do I have? What knowledge do I have? What can I say about an existing story, or what story do I have to tell? And then, start figuring out how to reach out to your local media. But you got to do it very carefully, because you can burn as many bridges as you can build. If you do it wrong, then they won't open your next email.
So what makes, I'm sure that's you could probably spend hours talking about that, but what makes, or what differentiates a good PR campaign from a bad one?
Well, basically strategy. It's, again, you don't want to be just throwing something up against the wall. You want to be thinking, okay, number one, you need excellent messaging. And then number two, who is going to be open to that excellent messaging? Is this a television news story, which is a very, they've got 25 minutes and they got that's a very high bar. Is it a magazine? Is it more of a newspaper story where they have more room to talk about? And even then, is it something that audience will be interested in? So really strategy. There's a whole bunch of components, and you're good at PR. Basically 3 things is communication, connections, and strategy. and putting those 3 things together makes all the difference.
And I can't help myself because I deal with domain names. I'm going to ask you about that as well. So, like, from where I stand, and before I got into domain names, which has been like the past 5 years, I had a web development agency, software and web development. I was in marketing. So then I got into domain names, and I realized, even though I've been like in tech for almost 20 years now, I was getting domain names wrong. Like, I was seeing them as just that technical side of things, like set up an email, put whatever, that's fine. Yeah. And then I realized, hold on a minute. Like, if we're talking about PR, now, like, you even like down to the email you're sending from
and how people react to that. Like I get all sorts of messages, and it does come across differently when it's, yahoo.com and when it's some really good brand match, short, memorable domain name. Also, like the recall, like when you're sharing, printed or whatever radio information, would people remember that name to be able to reach it, et cetera, et cetera. So in your experience, what is the role? Where do domain names come into a successful PR?
100%, like you said. So you want something that's, easy to spell, hopefully, and easy to remember, and representative of you. Right. So those people, but definitely, I've stopped some clients when if it's some, and some, hopefully, it depends what you want to do, but hopefully not too long. You want something that fits nicely on like a t-shirt, if you were going to do a t-shirt or something, so think about this, how long it is, so that you can use it on marketing stuff. What does it speak to you? Does it feel like you? I also think it's important to be genuine and not generic. Like it's really, differentiating yourself. So something that, put thought into it. Don't just be like, Bob's hair design or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could. Maybe like Bob is a real presence and you're going to have a logo and you're going to, so there's no like absolute. But just make sure you think about what you're doing, right? Like, and that name, and it's funny because my company's Lamourie Media, and you know what? Because I started as a freelancer, and I got so big in my name so fast that by the time I thought about starting a company, like an actual, because I'm freelancing, by the time I thought about, like incorporating my company, which had been incorporated for 2 years, I was already so like Lamourie PR, Lamourie Media was really well known, at least not like on a global level, but I mean, it's had a with media so I didn't want to change it and go backwards and start thinking of a more clever name. And could I have thought of a clever name? Anyway, so my name is, associated with my brand. But my brand is very vibrant. I'm well known and I'm genuine in what I do. And I'm Tracy Lamourie. I already was known for the activist stuff. I was known for other stuff. I was known for, so but if I don't know if that's the name I would have chosen if I had, sat down and said, okay, I'm going to start thinking of a name. But it actually works. You know what I mean? So, but also Lamourie, it's an uncommon name, and it sounds like l'amour is like love in French, and it's kind of, you know what I mean? So it kind of works.
But no, it does. It does. I was going to actually ask you about the how it came about, and it's funny because that's why I work in naming. It's so like fascinating the way people like you said, some people sit down and have a think and come up with some story. Other people, it's your name basically like came to you yourself. It's and I've seen stories like that as well, where it's effectively the audience naming the brand or the personal brand. It kind of itself comes about.
Like I was a freelancer when I started. I didn't know how big it would get, how many clients it would get, how local, global, So I was just thinking, I'm just Tracy Lamourie, and then that just segued into because my name, like when you Google my name now, there's so many interviews and everything else, and it's like I'm an asset to the business, right?
Yeah.
Just from that now. So yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to match two questions into one. So that's going to be, what type of individual or company do you work with? So what's the type of person or company in terms of like location, size, stage of development, who can reach out to you for help, and what does the process typically look like?
Yep. So it's really interesting. The answer to that is really interesting because I really go, I can turn away, like I'm at the point of my business successful enough that I can turn away as many projects as I accept, and I don't have to say yes to things. I have to work, but I have a choice of projects, right? So the one thing that comes down to it is if I am excited about it, if I like, and I could be, it could be something that I already know I'm affiliated with or have an affinity for, like an author. Or it could be, something new, like a startup that's just been introduced to me, like, but it's the person. It's usually the person and their passion for what they're doing. So I want to work with founders or with either a business or doing something really good that hits my socially, whatever side. But other than that, it doesn't matter because it's really about the person. It's like I have a founder of a recent company. She's a flooring company. I never thought about flooring in my life. She's started a sustainable flooring company, and it's really cool. Like, in the industry, it's like, but talking to her and her excitement about it, and it's what I'm like, it gives me the ideas of how I can effectively work. So basically, I work across industries. Literally, I'm proud to say I work across industry, from creative, like I said, to small businesses, to like authors, to, whatever, right up to, bigger startups. Like, I'm talking to some fairly well-known big companies. But my sweet point is really because it's most fun to work with either a creative or a small business person, entrepreneur or solopreneur, and help them build that dream. That's my most fun thing. So it really doesn't matter as long as it's something I feel their excitement. It's something I can get my head around, and that's what it is. It's not a particular industry or a particular size of company. It's more like I would know after a conversation. Yeah, that doesn't really resonate. I think it's important that, and when you're choosing a publicist, that they're excited about what you're doing. That they're not just like, oh yeah, we can do that. You want to see, oh yeah, you know what I'm already thinking. You want them to actually. They have to really understand your audience. Which means they really have to understand you. They have to really get what you're doing. So if you feel like you're going through the motions, or you're just talking to the corporate person, they're going to be sending it. A lot of time with big name companies, you may get on the phone, a senior, and then they're jobbing all your work to a junior, because you don't really know who you're dealing with. It's a big. So most importantly for me is that I resonate with the project, and I think that's success. Is that I get to choose how I want to fill my days.
And that kind of wraps up nicely with where we started, because when you started, you were saying, and I wanted to get back to that, that a lot of companies, smaller, especially small to medium businesses, people who run like personal brands, so they don't even think of PR. They're like, oh, that's for the big companies out there. I'm not, and they end up. Exactly. And it really speaks to me from where I stand with domains, because it's very, very similar story where people go, oh, I'm not big enough for that. That's the big guys. And it's like, yeah, but if you look, actually, even if you backtrack those big guys now, when they were smaller, they were thinking big already. They were thinking about, how do you get there? Because otherwise you just can't. So
and there's from PR perspective, people think, oh, you have to start small. I had a story I tell a lot too. I had one client, 26 years old, a life coach with like a million other life coaches, on paper, nothing to really differentiate her from everybody else, zero media. People think you have to start small. Like the first media that I got, losing my thing here. The first media that I got for her was literally the day after she hired me. I made the connection with a Good Housekeeping reporter who was looking for a story that fit her personal backstory, and the next day she did the interview. And then her first, they took a few weeks for it to publish, but her first media ever was the print edition of Good Housekeeping magazine, which is on every newsstand in the world. Not only that, it was a cover photo, it was a cover story. Her picture wasn't on the cover, but the story was on the cover. You know how it is like that. So so there was no having to hire me for 3 months and do little things and small things. Doesn't mean every day you get the big thing, but you could get a giant thing the same. Like when you have a publicist, you don't know what's coming out that day. We're looking for opportunities for you. It's going to be everything from the middle grain one to all of a sudden, oh, I found something here, and Good Morning America wants to interview you. Or Newsweek, or this is Rolling Stone, or so but you don't have to be. They're not looking for. They're not asking for they know where to go find, Microsoft, or they're not looking for the top executives of the world. They're looking for entrepreneurs in different industries at top. So you need to get in the mix. What happens is like entrepreneurs in every industry are literally watching, those old Laverne and Shirley or, Lucy shows where they'd be like doing factory and there'd be like all these things going and they couldn't catch them. You're literally missing all these media opportunities and just saying, no, free, not advertising. Just things like, can you comment on this? Spend half an hour doing it, and then boom, the next thing you know, you're in. Like that's how you get 2 or 3 of those. Then all of a sudden, as seen in Good Housekeeping, as seen in Reader's Digest, now you get other income streams. Number one, your business is becoming more successful. You're able to get more. You're getting more clients. You're differentiating yourself from the competitor. You might be getting investors if that's what you're looking for. But also now you might be getting speaking engagements. You might be getting, so there's that. Someone might ask you to write a book on your expertise, or to, you never know, because this is how stuff happens. This is how you get out there. And there's a million, opportunities to do it. Now we have email. You can reach out to, reporters. You can be connected. But again, you have to really know how to do it. So like I'm writing a book right now called Get Rep, Build Your Brand with Effective Public and Media Relations. Half of it is about how to know when you need a public, how to hire public. And the other half is giving you some advice on what things you can do on your own. But again, if I can impart on one thing before you ever reach out to any media on your own, make sure you really have edited yourself. And it's not advertorial. It's editorial information of interest to the editor. And, not because you want a free ad, because they'll be more than happy to send you to the ad department. Their business is too. But, you put yourself in a bit like, a position of how I tell the story. And if you're not used to doing that, since I'm hiring a publicist like me, I work internationally. Even if you just hire a publicist for a month or 2 or 3 months, and then you leave it, at least after that time, you're going to see how they're presenting you. You're going to see how they're pitching you. You're going to see the language they use. You're going to get, you're going to also, your mind will be expanded onto how much interest there is about what you do if you do it right and if you aim it right. So.
Absolutely. And you kind of touched on my last question. What's next? What's new and exciting for this year? You said you're writing a book.
Yeah, I've been writing that book for a couple of years, though, because I never stopped.
Okay. Well, now I said it's for 2023. You're going to have to finish it.
Yeah. So I've been really, usually I'm so busy doing my other client stuff and I get more excited about that. And then I'm like, I'll do that later. But I've been trying to be really disciplined about that and getting at least an hour, a couple hours a weekend. So this probably will actually come to pass this year. But also there's a million projects that I've even just started that I'm already super excited about. I just had a conversation today with a major event, and it's going to come up in South Africa for people across the African diaspora, the whole thing. And it's got everything from fashion to business to and it's like an impactful event that it's going to be taking up some of my time. But I mean, I'm working with like some really cool projects, and I always am, and I'm always, ask me, I mentioned that one because that's a conversation I just had. If you ask me in 2 hours, I'll be talking about the other project I'm super excited about. But I mean, that one is particularly, so that's like a global thing. And then I have, authors that just wrote their first book that have been talking to me, waiting for their release, and they're ready to come. I have, small businesses that have, been waiting for their launch. Now January's their launch and they're ready to go. And so this is actually a super busy time. After 2 weeks, that was like too slow for me. I'm waiting for everybody to get over the holidays. I have a lot of writing to do, but now we're back into like, okay, what are the exciting things we're going to do this year? And there's just so many, from entertainment to beauty projects to, impactful projects like that across it. So really, I never know what's going to come. What I love most about my work is I never know what's going to come tomorrow, but I plan more travel. I plan to do more of it like I have, in the Mediterranean right now for the last 2 months after a speaking engagement instead of in cold Canada. So passport will travel. I can, go wherever I need to go. So anybody around the world, no matter where it is, or virtually, again, I would love, I also like to, offer, here's the advertorial part. I'd love to offer any of your listeners, if anybody's interested but thinking, okay, that's great, but how would it actually work for me, my business? I'm happy to do like a 20-minute, 30-minute conference call with anybody where we can actually get there, they can understand what we would do for them personally. And then if they want to get started, I'm interested in new projects as always.
Cool stuff. Yeah, we'll definitely include all the links to how to reach you in the interview. Thank you. That's been really fun. I'm sure we can talk for another couple of hours, but let's try.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah, we'll do it. I know. I do have that. I do have some guests. I'm like, we could just have another podcast, and I'm actually thinking of doing that this year. Like, have another addition to the series where we have second time guests, but we focus on a particular topic.
Because it's something that I cover too. I'd love to tell people like some nitty gritty stuff about like what you can do.
Exactly. We can focus on little topics.
Yeah, like here's 5 things you can do after the podcast to start elevating your own brand. Once you and at first they had to have understood why and what PR is and all that stuff that we've talked about today, right? So I'm happy to do it any other time. And I'm back in the south of France for Cannes Film Festival in May, so maybe we'll connect.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely reach out. I'm here. Cool stuff. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Smart Branding Podcast. Feel free to visit smartbranding.com for more information and reach out if you have any suggestions, questions, ideas, or just want to learn more about how a good domain name strategy can help you build a strong and successful brand. See you next time.